financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Hi, welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. The last TV segment that we covered on the show, we introduced the topic of contract law and what are the elements of a contract. And I want to finish off that topic today rather than just leaving it hanging because we went quite along the way, but we didn't get through all the material I want to. Before I do that, I want to just go reintroduce everybody. David Einstein, a co-host. Good to see you here. Brian Small, nice to see you. And we have in the studio back a former regular, maybe hopefully a regular to be in the future,
demand.
Eric Glick.
Right.
And Eric Glick's going to be sitting in on the contracts discussion here. And then our next segment of the show, we're going to talk about the basics of estate planning, and Eric's going to walk us through.
Do you know what popular
and
demand
lead
is
us
on the
through
show?
that.
Two people called requesting you.
Okay, very nice. Who are they?
Both of your kids.
Ben and Josh.
Yeah, we want to see Dad on TV. Come on. Can you do anything to do it? I said, sure, we'll have Eric on. So, back to contracts. If you remember the last segment, we went over the elements of a contract. We went and we reviewed offer, acceptance, and consideration, and I thought we developed those topics quite well. If you missed it, you can catch the show on YouTube, so just go back and watch it. Consider it your homework. But where we left off was what I consider to be one of the most common issues that you encounter in conversations with people because you're a lawyer and that the people have among themselves. And that is, does a contract have to be in writing? And I think a lot of people think the answer to the question is yes, because everyone says, get it in writing.
No, it's the typical attorney answer.
What's the typical attorney answer?
What's the typical attorney answer?
Get it
Eric?
in writing.
No. Try again.
Maybe. It depends.
It depends.
It depends.
Right. Now, out of everyone, you should have known it depends.
Well,
Oh, dear God.
wait a second. Patson Masco is not here. We're not talking about elder law. And
I just said out of this group, you
What-
should have gotten that
Maybe
quicker.
we're talking
Why?
to elder law? Is that it?
Did it just leak through?
you think that at 60 I have to be concerned with... I think at 60 I have to be concerned with planning for the future. I don't believe that the future,
That's
is
next
on the
segment.
horizon.
That's the next segment when Eric's going to talk. Right
You're
now,
the only one would wear patches on your elbows.
There's nothing wrong with these patches. This is a Lord & Taylor special.
It is special.
The sign of an educator.
Yeah.
It's the educator's uniform.
I don't
A
want to
professor
digress,
would-
but I'm going to turn
But the
quickly
answer
over.
is
So you raised the
sometimes.
coat, which I
Sometimes.
think is totally inappropriate on the show. I'm going to go to Brian because Brian, we've talked about eliminating credit card debt, making getting a greater sense of value for your money as part of your
Absolutely.
budgeting approach.
Right.
And when we do our seminars, I often relate that when I go to a store now to buy something, I pay cash. I do not like to charge. And if I do charge something, it gets paid off immediately. I will not pay the credit card industry interest. And as I made that switch, there was a transition where I used to, when I was more of a spendthrift, I would go, and if I saw something, I wanted it, I'd throw out the plastic and I'd buy it. I wouldn't care about a sale. Now I completely take a different approach. So it's the end of the season. I go into Lord & Taylor on its 70% off sale, and I walk out with this sport coat, which you're going to tease me about forever, and I don't care whether you like it or not like it. But it only cost me $56. And I felt really good about making a valued purchase, which is what Brian has kind of taught me.
well, it's essential.
there.
When you're spending money,
And I know you're going to say, well, I overpaid. I know
no
it's
matter
coming.
no matter what you spend your money on, the important thing is that you get the most satisfaction you can out of that dollar spent. If you're spending money, and if you have let's just take a 0 to 10 scale. If you spend money on something and it gives you a 2.5 out of 10, if the 0 being the worst and 10 being the greatest amount of satisfaction, 2.5 isn't really enough of a justification to really
Let me challenge
make you want to buy or spend that money. You just did it. It was
There must be exceptions, because if I go to the dentist,
no.
I
There
don't
are
get
certain
a
things.
2.5.
You're
if
right.
I go
There are
buy
certain-
tires, I don't get a 2.5. I
No,
get.
you're right. There's a wholesale
like paying.
exception.
I don't
We
know
call
what
those-
you're talking about with the numbers,
No,
but
no,
I'll
no.
tell you this.
We call those necessary expenses. Those are
That
the things
code-
that you,
evils, I call
those
them.
That
are what you
jacket
must spend.
came with the bonus. Came with the,
The
pocket
patches?
bonus.
What's the
no,
what's the
It
bonus?
was the bonus. Do you know that if you went inside, look inside, okay, and you may have taken it out already, but it came with your own ARP card.
No.
This
all right.
is
In
more the
all
college
seriousness.
professor
It is.
type of a.
It is.
Wait a minute. Let's. In all seriousness, when you spend money on anything,
I want to get back to.
I
contracts.
understand, but this is part of what we were talking
Okay.
about later in this segment
Finish
too.
the point. I can't interrupt you every day.
The point is,
Wake me
is
up when
that
he's
there are necessary expenses. Those are the things that keep a roof over your head.
Agreed.
Okay,
Like
And
tires.
tires, car payments if you have one, your mortgage, your rent.
Car payment is a little discretionary, because it
it
could
is,
be a
but-
$200 car payment and it can be an $800 car payment.
This is true. But at the end of the day, those things that you have to spend money on, if you bring home $4,000 a month and you have $4,000 worth of necessary expenses,
That's
it's-
depressing.
what you have is no ability to have any fun with money.
Correct.
Now, when you have disposable income, you have the ability to have some fun with money. That disposable income should be used in the most effective way possible. If you go buy a sport jacket and you spend $200 on it, and it uses up a quarter of your disposable income, are you going to get as much satisfaction out of that as if you get the same sport jacket for $56 and now it's used up an eighth of your disposable
No, because
income?
I then get to use the other $144 in buying other things to get enjoyment out of.
Exactly.
But we could have made that point without using
right.
up half of the show.
Wait a minute.
So I want to get
Have you
back
done
to
the slides yet?
contracts.
Have you done the slides
I've done
yet?
the slides, and I have no slides to cover
you
this
need to add,
material.
Dave, he needs to add a slide of elastic and inelastic demand curve.
I've been-
And we'll go from insulin to sport coats.
I'm going to add a slide. I'm going to put a picture of a
Right.
sport coat.
Right.
$200 and $56. Subtract $144
you
of
can
extra
give
joy.
me all the grief you want about
Your
this,
point's
but
correct.
the point
I
is
agree.
well made, and I guarantee you it's important.
All right, let's all give it.
It was just
applause
lengthy.
for Brian's good point. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the statute of frauds and when contracts have to be in writing and when not. And we're not going to discuss my sport coat for the rest of this segment. We'll be back after the break.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
It's devastating. The effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Fav Gross 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. All right, now let's talk about contracts. We got hung up on the first rule of do contracts have to be in writing. The general rule is not depends. The general rule is no, from the standpoint of an analysis. The only time you need a contract to be in writing is if it falls within what we call the statute of frauds. And what the statute of frauds are is several different statutes, which are laws that indicate when a contract needs a writing in order to be enforced. And I'm going to give you the 4 basic statutes of frauds. And if it falls within one of these statutes, then you need to satisfy the statute. And after we say what the statutes are, we'll talk about how you satisfy them. All right, number 1, contracts involving an interest in land, real property, you fall within the statute of frauds. That covers leases of real property. It calls sales and purchases of land, easements, things like that.
Land contracts.
Land contracts.
Okay.
Contracts involving the sale of goods.
Hold on, let me back up. On the real property, it doesn't matter the amount you're talking about. It could be $500. It could be $5 million.
Correct.
You need to have it in writing.
Correct.
Okay.
Just if it's involved in real estate. Contracts involving the sale of goods under the Uniform Commercial Code, which is adopted in every state. First of all, goods are anything movable. Think about it in terms of personal property. Anything that's not real estate that's movable is a good.
Opposed to a service.
Correct. And if the price of the contract is $1,000 or more, then it falls within the statute. Now, when I was a youngster, before the Depends era, back in law school, that number was $500. Somewhere they bumped it up to $1,000.
You got to be careful with the use of depends too much, because when you talk about age and depends, they could have a whole other meaning to it. Just throwing that out there.
Good point.
before when you say before depends.
Good point. Good point.
By the way, could I say something? Not to interrupt, but
you don't have to interrupt, and you don't even have to ask permission to say something. Just be like Brian and just shout it out.
Thank you, sir.
And if we don't like it, we'll just shout you down.
I mean, contracts don't always have to be in writing, but in my opinion, you should treat the rule as though they do have to be in writing, because even though they don't, if it wasn't for verbal oral agreements, we wouldn't have half of the business that we have, half of the disputes we have.
Yeah, so for that reason, ignore what Brian is saying, what Eric is saying, for the benefit of the lawyers of the world, so that there's more disputes out there and lawyers are busier. But yeah, when
because
it comes
verbal
to
agreements
relationships,
are fine, but then you have interpretations. How do you prove what the agreement is? One party says and not only could there be a room for wrongdoing, there could simply be misunderstanding. I thought this was what you meant.
Absolutely true. But you have to. But in the purest sense, do you need it in order to be enforceable? Is the other point, because if you don't fall within the statute and you don't need it to be in writing, and you don't need to satisfy the statute, then you have the ability to enforce it. And then, like what Eric is saying, you run into proof problems because you don't have written documentation to support your position. But let me give you the other two
Number 3.
statutes. Number 3 is a contract to answer for the duty of another person. And that the most common form of that would be a guarantee or a suretyship. You guarantee your kid's obligation on a promissory note for his car payment or on his lease for
Co-sign a student loan.
Student loan, or on his lease for college
would
apartment.
a suretyship come in a bonding sense?
A suretyship is a contract to answer for the duty of another one as well. A suretyship is a form of a guarantee, and yes, it would.
Okay.
Okay. And then the fourth one, which is probably the most often confused and one of the most fun ones to talk about and fight about sometimes, is a contract that cannot be performed within 1 year of the date of its making.
And I want you to emphasize the word cannot, because if the contract could be performed in less than a year, then it applies.
Let me do it again then. A contract that cannot be performed within 1 year of the date of its making. Did I emphasize it better?
With the K, yeah, it was good.
Okay. Now, why the cannot, eliminating the just is true. If you can perform it within the year, you don't have to perform it within the year, then it's not within the statute, and then it doesn't have to be in writing. I'll give you an example. I say to David, I will provide you training services, $50 an hour for 60 sessions. Although we contemplate that it's going to be, for 60 sessions, it's going to be once a week, we haven't said anything about it. So I provide you 5 sessions, and then I say, David, I can't stand training you. You don't pay attention. You're not serious. I'll continue doing it, but you have to pay me $75 a session, not $50. David says, no, we have a contract for 60 sessions at $50 an hour. I'm not paying you the extra $25. I'll sue you unless you do that. And I say, nah, you can't sue me because you don't have a written contract. And he says back, nah, I can sue you because that contract doesn't fall within the statute of frauds, because it could be performed with 1 year of the date of its making, because I could have taken 60 training sessions in 3 weeks if I wanted to.
Unless, like Eric said, that the terms of the contract were going to be once per week. So if you set that schedule, and that was part of the material
then
terms,
it would be impossible
to perform
it within 1 year. And then it would fall within the statute, and then we'd need a writing, and then if I said, nah, I would be right. Correct?
Yeah, until you get into equitable arguments and unjust enrichment.
We're not doing equitable arguments here, and I don't think unjust enrichment falls into a training contract.
And just so the listeners aren't confused, there's one other item that doesn't necessarily fall under the statute of frauds but needs to be in writing. I do a lot of work with contractors and homeowners for home improvement contracts. And under the law in Michigan, contractors have to have a written agreement with their homeowners for improvements to real estate.
To residential real estate.
That falls under 2 statutes of frauds, because it is a contract involving real estate, so it falls under the general, and it also falls under the specific one with regard to lien rights and everything else.
Well, that's interesting, because on commercial projects, contractors don't have to have a written agreement.
If they're doing an improvement to real estate, they do, because it's involving land. But if it's not,
one of those exceptions to the rule.
But if they're just providing service, then they don't.
It's not the sale of land.
Yeah.
So a painting contractor or somebody providing a service
Right.
that is mixed may not be. So
Good point.
it's fact.
All right, now let's shift to the next thing. How do you satisfy the statute? This is where it gets more fun. You don't need a written, full, integrated document that says contract. What you need
is a napkin.
Is a writing.
You just need a napkin.
A writing signed by the party to be charged. That's the rule. You need a writing signed by the party to be charged. The person you're trying to enforce the contract against, you need their signature or initial on a piece of paper in writing. We'll be back after the break.
It's devastating, the effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Fav Gross 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Simasko Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Simasko Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Simasko Law today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Fav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
Let me do announcements. We have a seminar coming up Tuesday, February 24th. It's called It's Time to End Debt Now. There's also another one coming up March 25th called Debt Free This Year. The seminars focus on how to preserve future income for savings, how to shed debt, eliminate debt, what the options are. The key to your future retirement is you have to start putting money away. And bottom line is, if you're putting away, if you're paying $1,500 or $800 a month on credit card debt, which is really at 20% interest, you're throwing away your future retirement. There's a smarter way of going about it if you figure out your options on getting rid of the debt the fastest possible way, and that's the focus of the seminar. And the seminar is in our Bingham Farms office from 7 to 8:30 p.m. I also want to mention that the firm Thav Gross has now opened a Flint office effective with the beginning of, actually mid-February is when we opened, 1000 Beach Street, Flint, Michigan. So if you have any friends in Flint or you're in the Flint area and you want assistance from Thav Gross, we're now in your home court. Free reports, we've got Retiree's Guide to Social Security from Pat Samasco, available at ssifreereport.com. We have a Reg X special report, How to Save Your Home with Regulation X, The Hidden Secrets, written by yours truly. That's available at redxhomesaver.com. The Financial Crisis Analyzer is free and available on the Law and Reality website. You pop in your information, and it lays out your options in terms of bankruptcy, loan modification, settling credit card debt, which makes the best sense, how to address tax problems. I want to thank our sponsors, Thav Gross and Samasco Law, and also our upcoming new sponsors, Cardiology Associates of Michigan and Farmington Dental Clinic, Fadi Asaf PC. Good docs. By the way, if you want to sign up for the seminars or you want those free reports and you don't want to go through the websites to get them, which are thavgross.com and lawandreality.com, you can also do it the old American way, which would be to pick up the phone and dial 888-235-HELP. All right, now, back to the statute of frauds. We were talking about how do you satisfy it, a writing signed by the party to be charged. The classic best story for Michiganders goes to the Bo Schembechler story when he cut the deal with Tom, when Tom Monahan wanted him to, what was the deal with the two of them?
The story behind Bo
hiring,
Schembechler.
what was he hiring him to do?
To be the,
Bo became the
president of the Detroit Tigers. I
right.
believe.
Yeah, I forgot. And they struck the deal on a napkin, which was initialed. And then they got into a dispute, and there was no quote-unquote written contract, and Bo sued on the napkin. And I believe they settled out of court, but the napkin was sufficient to satisfy the statute of frauds. Now, I'll give you one other story. This goes back to when I was a newlywed. In fact, before I got married, there was a furniture store that a lot of people used out in the Oakland County area called Irving's Furniture. They're no longer in business. And we went in and
Probably because of you.
ordered a bedroom set, and it was supposed to be delivered, like the week before the wedding. And we had all the items there, and the salesperson was a real slick guy. I think he was Irving's son or something like that. And I was a young guy, and this guy was real vocal and everything else. And he writes up the whole thing and gives me an invoice and says, this is the contract. And nowhere, there was nothing for him to sign. So I said to him, listen, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I am a young, soon-to-be lawyer. I was only in my third year of law school, and I would feel a lot better about this if you initialed the invoice. Now, if I was talking to the guy, I'd say to him, listen, initial the invoice or I'm out of here because I want your signature. But then I was a little bit more tepid, so I said, would it be all right if you initialed it? So he goes, what for? You don't trust me? I said, no, it's nothing about trust. It's just I've spent all this money on my law school education. I think I should use it. So he initials it. Sure enough, they don't deliver the furniture. They're giving me all this crazy stories about it being back ordered. I called a couple other friends who had furniture, who knew someone in the furniture store. They said the reason why they haven't delivered is because they haven't paid their bill to their vendor. They're jerking you around. So I started then going into lawyer mode, threatening the guy. And I felt really strong in my position because I know he had initialed the thing. I got my bedroom set finally. The mirror was cracked, and they finally brought in a new mirror after I was badgering and hassling him. And the salesperson is the one who delivered the mirror. And he brings it into the apartment and puts it down. And I said to him, aren't you going to hang the mirror? And he says, I'm not going to hang the mirror, and I'm never going to talk to you or see you again. And he turned out and walked out. Like I was the bad guy because I expected to get the bedroom set that I had paid for. The bottom line is that little initial put it in a position where if he didn't fulfill the contract, I had something to sue on because that was a contract involving the sale of goods, price of, at the time, $500 or more. It was actually probably more than $1,000 too. So that's my Irving's Furniture story. Now, last thing before we run out of time. Think about all the contracts nobody ever reads. And what's the rule there? Well, the rule there is whether you read it or not, if it is a written contract, you are bound by what you have signed up for. And that can be very annoying at times. Have you ever read your DirecTV or your Comcast or your Verizon contract?
Yes.
What about your license contracts? When you sign up for an app and you say yes to the app, do you
Nope.
read those?
No.
Nope.
Insurance agreements. You should read
Ken,
them.
real
Yes.
quickly, what about when the agreement says that the other side can change the terms and conditions?
Like a
That's
credit card agreement.
an illusory contract in my mind.
Which
Right.
means what? That's a big word.
If it's an illusory contract and if a contract does not bind one side to any course of conduct, then it is not a contract. However, there are exceptions to that, and if it says they can change any terms going forward, then it's potentially it's a termination clause and it creates a new contract going forward. It's a very complicated issue. Last couple things: bank loans, commercial loans, credit card agreements. Read them all. You're much better off. At least you know what you're getting into. Thanks for watching and listening to this segment of Law and Reality. We'll be back with another segment.